OCN Volume 26 Number 5, May 2, 2026. This podcast presents the audio versions of the articles and columns in this issue of OCN in the order they appeared in the paper. For details, please refer to the articles and columns, which are posted at ocn.me. Palmer Lake Board of Trustees, April 9 and 23, proposed disciplinary hearing frustrates board, water emergency declared. By James Howell and Jackie Burr-Hans. In April, the Palmer Lake Board of Trustees, PLBOT, grappled with legal issues arising from a town employee's charge that they were harassed by trustee Roger Mosley. The alleged harassment complaint was first mentioned by the town's previous attorney, Scott Krob, at a board meeting in December 2025 and was discussed during an executive session on March 16. Executive sessions are not open to the public. The board heard details of the investigation of Mosley, tried to determine what legal remedies were available to it should the charges be proven and, with the help of newly hired town attorney Kent Whitmer, what the process to hold a hearing on the allegations should be. The board filled one of 3 vacancies on the Planning Commission and discussed filling the mayor pro tem vacancy. At the request of Charles Rubidoux, Palmer Lake's water supervisor, the board declared a water emergency and delegated the response to Rubidoux. It tabled a vote on a proposed resolution to opt out of the state's new law allowing graywater use in new construction. Town Clerk Erica Romero updated the board on efforts to address code violations at the Elephant Rock Mobile Home Park. The April 23 meeting was preceded and followed by executive sessions. Few legal precedents for hearing. At the April 9 meeting, Trustee 8S Jerka said he could not attend the executive session in March during which the harassment complaint was discussed, and was told he could not review the recording of it because a legal decision was required for him to do so, and the town was without a lawyer at that time. Jerka said the investigation of Mosley was begun in secret by Krob. Interim Town Administrator Glenn Smith told Jerka that the town administrator, not the town attorney, was responsible for investigating employee complaints. Smith offered to clarify the situation in open session. Whitmer agreed that the town administrator made personnel decisions and that an open discussion was proper. Whitmer added that there was a legal gray area in the matter, as Mosley was a trustee, not an employee. He confirmed Smith should take steps as needed to protect staff from a hostile work environment. Smith said the town was required to investigate all charges of harassment and discrimination, and any lawsuit resulting from such charges would be against the town. An independent investigator hired by Smith confirmed that likely illegal behavior took place, that Mosley had admitted involvement, and that there was evidence of a hostile work environment based on gender. The investigator concluded Mosley's harassment was primarily directed at women. An independent attorney interviewed multiple witnesses and agreed the employee's claim of harassment was supported. Smith asked Mosley if he wanted the matter discussed at a public hearing and gave Mosley a written copy of the charges against him. Whitmer said the next step was for the board to decide a direction. It could choose to take no action, or it could have a hearing, which is provided for in state statute. Mosley said he believed the complaints against him had been introduced by Krob at a previous meeting and asked if they had been shared. Smith said that was irrelevant to the current investigation. Whitmer said there were privacy concerns, and information regarding the complaints was not available through an open records request. Mosley said he would not resign and questioned what options were open for the board to take. He suggested there were only 2, the board could choose to take no action or decide to have a hearing. Whitmer responded that the board could decide its own options and recommended that Mosley recuse himself from any votes on the matter. Trustee Beth Harris made a motion for a hearing but withdrew it because Jerka had an open motion that was never seconded. Jerka said his motion was dead, and Harris made a second motion for a hearing. The motion passed, with trustees Mike Beeson, Tony Beltran, John Marble, Mosley, Harris, and Mayor Dennis Stern voting in favor. Jerka voted no. During public comments at the April 9 meeting, several residents spoke about Mosley's behavior and the board's response. Trina Shook said she had seen Krob try to intimidate the board and accused Smith of bullying. Mosley is accused of harassing an employee. Kathy Keeley said the board should communicate directly with the town's attorney and should not get information from the town staff. Kurt Earhart gave kudos to the staff, mentioning Smith by name. He said it was time to bury the hatchet as the question of the Buc-ee's travel center was decided. He called on a board member, whom he did not name, to resign. Bill Bass recalled that during his term as mayor, Mosley was abusive to staff to the degree that police presence during Mosley's visits to town hall was discussed. Mosley repeated the same questions to staff time and time again, always refusing to accept their answers, and that behavior is still going on. Mosley also submitted too many open records requests, Bass said. Shauna Ball said the board members might not have the immunity they believe they have. David Park spoke in support of the board, which was trying to resolve long-standing problems. At the April 23 meeting, the board took up the question of possible penalties for Mosley and whether a procedure for disciplinary hearings should be added to the town's code. Jerka moved to direct Whitmer to draft a legal opinion to guide the board and to table the discussion of codifying the hearing process. Stern pointed out that the possible ordinance being discussed was not specific to Mosley but would cover any town officer. Whitmer said an ordinance addressing disciplinary hearings and Mosley's specific case were two separate issues, and it would be good to have a procedure for hearings added to the town's code. You can see what chaos and turmoil it causes where there isn't a procedure, Whitmer said. Jerka said he would defer to his fellow board members. Whitmer reviewed the background of the issue. At the last board meeting, the board voted for a hearing to evaluate whether to retain Mosley on the board in response to the charges handed to him at that meeting. When he looked for legal precedents, Whitmer said he ran into multiple brick walls. Whitmer asked for the assistance of another attorney in his practice who had dealt with a similar case, and together they drafted a memo for the board. There were few precedents, Whitmer said, but he did find a similar Supreme Court case from the 1800s. Few towns have codified this. Whitmer's memo recommended a judicial process, with all parties having a right to be represented, to defend themselves, and to question witnesses, leading to an impartial decision by a hearing officer based on evidence. That process would require an ordinance to be written and voted on by the board. Once it was in place, the board could schedule a hearing, Whitmer said. Beeson pointed out that there were two state statutes that applied. CRS Section 31-4-307 says that, by a majority vote of all members of a board of trustees, any town officer, including a board member, may be removed from office. Removal requires charges in writing and a hearing. CRS Section 31-4-501, on the other hand, defines the process of recall by the voters. Beeson argued that Section 31-4-307 was unfair if the behavior in question lies in the middle, where censure or restricting contact with staff would serve the purpose. He said he wanted more options. Whitmer said he believed Section 31-4-307 gave the board a choice between removal or no action. Mosley said he did not agree with that reading and asked for guidance. Whitmer repeated his conclusion that the statute gave the board only two options. He recommended that the town pay reasonable attorney fees for the officer being considered for removal and noted that the decision made at the hearing could be appealed to a regular court. Whitmer said it would take months of work to draft an ordinance, the board would need to comment, and revisions might be needed. Beeson asked for a full spectrum of options in the ordinance, and Harris agreed. She suggested a letter of reprimand, a verbal warning to the trustee, and removal be included. Kat Gale, chief legal counsel for Integrity Matters, raised objections to the board's discussion, arguing that Palmer Lake was a statutory town and could not modify Section 31-4-307. She called the integrity of the investigative process into question and said the only lawful course was to terminate the process and that the board could not pass a law and apply it retroactively. Whitmer declined to comment on Gale's statement. Smith pointed out that Gale did not represent the town, and drawing the issue out creates stress for employees. Whitmer said he understood the board was directing him to look into the concerns of Gale and Jerka, to draft an ordinance addressing the hearing procedure, and to decide if the action against Mosley was correct. During the public comments following the legal discussion, several people spoke in support of Mosley. Grace Foy, a lawyer with Tri-Lakes Preservation Incorporated, said Mosley speaks to everyone in the same way, not intending to harass but to demand accountability. She noted inconsistency in how complaints were handled, noting that former Mayor Glant Havener had colluded with representatives of Buc-ee's, had insulted and name-called her constituents and had used intimidation, all without consequences. She cited questionable behavior by Smith and Charlie Eilenfeld, the chair of the Planning Commission. She said the board's handling of the complaint against Mosley was selective enforcement and could not proceed in a credible way. Trina Shook said the standard for harassment was ambiguous. Jean Colesti questioned the consistency and completeness of the board's actions and its standard for what is investigated and what is not. Debbie Hall commended Mosley for his service to his country. She asked the community to choose unity over division. Steve Draper commented on Mosley's intelligence, his military service, and said he gets things done. Laurel Shaw mentioned Mosley's responsibilities in his 45-year military career and said, "People who create toxic environments do not serve in leadership roles." Karen McVeigh said she did not think a hearing was needed. Kent Hudson appointed to the Planning Commission. At its April 9 meeting, the board considered Shauna Ball, Kent Hudson, and Susan Minor for open seats on the Planning Commission. Ball and Minor answered questions from the board. Hudson did not attend the meeting. Stern said all three candidates were vetted and approved by the current members of the Planning Commission. Romero said there were other candidates, not yet reviewed by the Planning Commission, for the seats in addition to Ball, Hudson, and Minor. Stern pressed for a vote on the three candidates presently before the board. Stern moved to appoint Ball, with a second from Marble, but the motion failed with Beeson, Beltran, Harris, Mosley, and Marble voting no, and Stern voting yes. Next, Stern moved to appoint Hudson. The motion was approved with all voting in favor. Finally, Stern moved to appoint Minor. That appointment failed with Beeson, Marble, and Stern voting yes and Beltran, Harris, Jerka, and Mosley voting no. Mayor Pro Tem. At the April 23 meeting following Whitmer's attorney report, Mosley asked for guidance on the rules around selecting a mayor pro tem, asserting that Palmer Lake's code says one must be selected within 30 days. At its October 9, 2025, meeting, after accepting then-Mayor Pro Tem Amy Hudson's resignation, the board failed to approve then-Trustee Tim Caves on a tied vote. Since then, no attempt has been made to appoint a Mayor Pro Tem. Mosley also inquired about the possibility of a Town Clerk Pro Tem. Whitmer said he could only speak to the Mayor Pro Tem position. Having reviewed Colorado revised statutes and the town code, he said he agreed with Mosley and recommended that a mayor pro tem be chosen at the next board meeting. He said he would look into the question of a pro tem clerk. Water emergency declared. Rubidoux told the board that he had received a call regarding water the town draws from Monument Creek. The call was made by the holder of a water right senior to the town's right, and it requires the town to discontinue the use of water from Monument Creek until the caller gets the amount of water from the creek to which they are entitled. Monument Creek is Palmer Lake's primary water source, Rubidoux said, and its two wells are used as backup sources, but the wells would be the town's only source until the call is satisfied. He asked the board to provide the ability to monitor water use restrictions quickly to address emergencies. He suggested leaving the current schedule, which allows watering 2 days out of the week, in place, but eliminating either the morning or evening time block. Harris said the board needs to ask for a code change. Whitmer said the board could declare an emergency to allow action immediately. Stern moved to declare a water emergency and to delegate the response to Rubidoux. The board voted unanimously in favor of the motion. It also voted to table a decision on opting out of the state's new law permitting the use of graywater until an issue regarding the existing graywater system raised by Planning Commissioner Matt Stephen is resolved. Elephant Rock Mobile Home Park issues addressed. At the April 9 meeting, Romero updated the board about progress at the Elephant Rock Mobile Home Park, which has had ongoing code issues, including 10 vehicle citations. She said the town had given warnings and knocked on doors, noting that some cars have already been towed or are scheduled to be towed. The town is also working with the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, CDPHE, on water issues, with Public Health and with the Department of Local Affairs, DOLA, and its program that regulates trailer parks. In response to her report, resident Tim Nolan said he was thrilled to see movement after many years, noting that there are still many problems including people living in recreational vehicles, a lack of utilities, and drug use. Nolan said he wished there were better mental health support and invited the board to visit him and see for themselves. During public comment, Minor said she met one of the residents and felt the activity on that lot was driven by mental illness. A group of citizens is trying to get that person mental health help, which, if not addressed, would result in undoing any cleanup, Minor said. If the property were condemned and leveled, it would result in homelessness as well. She asked that the community be compassionate with residents who have served in the community and who are neighbors. Executive sessions. The April 23 board meeting was preceded by an executive session to discuss the recruitment process being used to find a permanent town administrator and to meet with the recruitment firm assisting the town. It was followed by a second executive session to discuss an offer to purchase a portion of the Elephant Rock property and to receive advice on the offer from the town attorney and realtor Greg Kaufman. The next regular board meetings are scheduled for May 14th and 28th. See the town's website at www.townofpalmerlake.com to confirm times and dates of board meetings and workshops. Meetings are typically held on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month at the Town Hall. Information: 719-481-2953. James Howald can be reached at jameshowald@ocn.me. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. Buc-ee's buys parcel for over $10 million. By John Heiser. In early April, for more than $10 million, Buc-ee's EPCO LLC purchased from Monument Ridge West LLC the combined parcel west of I-25 and south of County Line Road, totaling about 53.4 acres. On March 19, the Colorado Division of Water Resources issued permits for 2 wells on the parcel. One permit is for the Denver Aquifer with a depth of 1,230 to 1,795 feet, pumping up to 3.5 million gallons per year. The second permit is for the Arapahoe Aquifer with a depth of 1,825 to 2,250 feet, pumping up to 7.1 million gallons per year. Each well would be limited to pumping 150 gallons per minute and must be more than 600 feet from any existing wells. The 2 wells could supply up to 880,000 gallons per month or 28,000 gallons per day. The analysis submitted to Palmer Lake estimated an average day demand of 37,300 gallons and a maximum day demand of 113,600 gallons. The Monument Sanitation District has committed to providing sewer service to the parcel. See MSD article on page 13. The El Paso County Planning and Community Development Department reports that development plans for the parcel have not been submitted. John Heiser can be contacted at johnheiser@ocn.me. Monument Town Council, April 6 and 20th, Fire Training Facility Final Plat approved. By Marlene Brown. On April 6, the Monument Town Council received a request from the Monument Planning Department for approval of rezoning and final plat for a new fire training facility at 18650 West Highway 105, which will include the building of an 11,040 square foot classroom building and a training tower. See site map on page 6. The proposed facility is expected to generate low traffic volumes and analysis concludes that no roadway improvements will be necessary. With less than 100 vehicles per day when the classes will be in session, no traffic impact study will be needed. The Town Council voted for approval of the rezone and the final plat. Car dealership delayed. The Council voted to delay a vote on the Alpine dealership at Falcon Commerce Center Phase 2 final plat and final planned unit development, PUD. The dealership is an automobile sales, service, and repair facility. It would sit on 12.5 acres located south of the Pilot Travel Center and east of the intersection of Squadron and Terrazzo Drives. Council members had several concerns, including the use of metal building panels and a request for a 35-foot pylon sign, which would violate existing building codes. After 2 hours of debate and unresolved issues regarding signage and building materials, the Council voted to continue the dealership ordinance to the May 4 meeting to allow the applicant and staff to refine the proposal. Water restrictions imposed early. The Council approved a modified watering schedule in response to regional drought conditions. The restricted watering season began April 7. Odd-numbered addresses, water on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Even-numbered addresses, water on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. No watering is permitted on Sundays. For 2026 only, the watering procedures will be in effect from April 7 through October 30, previously May 15 through September 30. Campaign finance procedures. In an update to campaign finance procedures, the Council passed an ordinance that allows the town clerk to refer campaign finance complaints to the Colorado Secretary of State in cases where an actual or perceived conflict of interest exists. Police impact fees. A new fee schedule was adopted for implementation of police impact fees collected for new land developments intended to ensure growth and contribute to the capital assets needs of the police department. With more population in the area, more officers and more vehicles will be needed to patrol the new neighborhoods. Software grant application. A resolution was approved to authorize Monument staff to apply for a $250,000 grant from the statewide Internet Portal Authority to replace the town's outdated land development and permitting software. Public comments. The meeting started with public comments for the first time. Haley Chapin, Executive Director of Tri-Lakes Cares, spoke to the council about its event coming in May, A Taste of Tri-Lakes Cares. Many of the restaurants in the Tri-Lakes area will be highlighted at the event. Also, Ent Credit Union on Interquest has a cafeteria and its chef would also be cooking for the event. Police Chief Patrick Reagan presided over oaths of office to Lieutenant Mitch Mihalko and Officer Ethan Elmshauser and welcomed them to their new roles in the Monument Police Department. The council formally proclaimed April Child Abuse Prevention Month, and members of the El Paso County Department of Human Services was there to read the proclamation and to help the community to understand their role in protecting the needs of children and helping families to work together within their social programs. The council moved into executive session and, after returning, approved Resolution Number 27 to 2026 entering into an economic development agreement with Project Cobalt to secure the location of the project within the town. Behind Project Cobalt is a mechanical contracting and systems engineering company that is looking to establish a new fabrication facility within Colorado. The project is expected to create 135 new jobs that will include project managers, engineers, and operations. At the April 20th meeting, the council took no action on a proposed annual 10% water rate increase through 2030 to address capital and operating expenses. There would be graduated tiered water rates, with higher volume users paying a larger percentage of the cost. It will be discussed in future workshops. The draft 2026 Stormwater Master Plan reveals that if 100-year storm increases at least 20% more rainwater than the 2006 plan was built to handle, there would be a need to evaluate infrastructure updates. For example, Old Denver Road has culvert deficiencies from undersize to failing that will not provide flood protection. See the contest for renaming the road on page 20. For complete viewing of the draft 2026 Stormwater Plan, see 4202026, Draft 2026 Stormwater Master Plan, W, Technical, Appendices, and Maps. The Planning Department will return at the May 18th regular council meeting with a resolution to accept the document and place it into the comprehensive plan that is being compiled. Other business. The Town Hall roof repair contract was awarded to Garland/DBS Incorporated for $55,797. The council adopted 12 American with Disabilities Act policies to bring the town into compliance. They will be added to the master plan. Councilman Ken Kimple raised a concern about several potholes in parking lots, Safeway, Monument Ridge, and Home Depot to name a few, which led to a discussion of the town's limited power for enforcing private property maintenance. The Silver Key thrift store ribbon cutting and grand opening at 586 West Highway 105 was praised. Mayor Mitch LaKind and Councilman Kimple said the high sales volume would be a new source of sales tax revenue. In public comments, Heather Jacobson, representing the Steering Committee for Tri-Lakes for Democracy, thanked the council for supporting the right to free speech after the controversy over a nonviolent No Kings event in Monument. After the event, cyberbullying on local social media was directed at certain individuals. Jacobson said constitutional safeguards apply to everyone and the right to protest can and was done in a respectful manner. After moving into and returning from executive session, no actions were taken. Correction. Corrections to the Monument Town Council article in the April issue of our Community News. Monument does not have 2 seats on the Fountain Creek Water District Board. Monument's seat on the board has been vacant since the passing of Councilman Jim Romanello. Additionally, the board membership is not regulated by state statutes. OCN regrets the errors. Regular meetings are typically held on the first and third Monday of each month at 6:30 p.m. at the Town Hall, located at 645 Beacon Light Road, Monument. If the meeting falls on a holiday, it will be held the following Tuesday. See townofmonument.org for agendas and supporting documents. Marlene Brown can be reached at marlenebrown@ocn.me. Monument Planning Commission, Town Re-Evaluates the Metal Barn Look. By Janet Sellers. At the Monument Planning Commission meeting on April 8, local officials began grappling with a question that could redefine the town's skyline: when is a metal building an architectural asset, and when is it just an oversized barn? Potential moratorium on metal buildings. Planning Director Dan Ungerlater informed the Commission that the Town Council has discussed a potential moratorium on all metal buildings. Such a move would effectively halt certain developments until the town can shore up its outdated and confusing design standards, he said. The Malone delay and stern warnings. Senior planner Jenna Gorney announced that the highly anticipated architectural presentation for Carl Malone Powersports had been pulled from the agenda. The removal comes on the heels of what Gorney described as stern feedback from the April 6 Town Council meeting regarding the Alpine Buick project. It appears the Town Council's concern with large metal structures has prompted the Planning Commission to reassess the rules before more projects move forward. Technical loopholes and nesting. The Commission spent considerable time discussing why the current rules are failing to meet the Council's expectations. A primary issue identified was code nesting. Current regulations limiting metal surfaces are buried within the Industrial Uses section of the Town Code. Because of this placement, these rules technically do not apply to commercial or retail projects, a loophole that has led to recent friction between developers and town officials. Defining the 20,000 square feet rule. Under the current industrial rules, buildings over 20,000 square feet are prohibited from using metal as a primary exterior surface if visible from public streets or trails. However, the Commission noted that primary exterior surface remains poorly defined. Commissioners are now tasked with determining if that means 51% of a wall, a specific architectural grade of metal, or the skeletal frame itself. An April 22 deadline. To bridge the communication gap with the Town Council, Chair Ray Egley and the Commission have agreed to a tight turnaround. Commissioners must submit their individual questions and technical concerns to staff by April 22. These will be compiled into a formal memo to guide the next joint workshop with the Council. The goal, according to staff, is to move Monument toward a community vision that provides developers with clear, predictable standards while protecting the town's aesthetic character. The Planning Commission usually meets on the second Wednesday of each month. The next meeting is scheduled for May 13. For further information, please visit www.townofmonument.org/263/planning-commission-board-of-adjustment or contact 719-884-8028. A recording with a transcript of each meeting is available online. Janet Sellers can be reached at janetsellers@ocn.me. Monument Academy School Board, April 9. Board hosts candidate forum, make staff decisions. By Jackie Burr-Hans. The Monument Academy, MA, Board met on April 9 to host a candidate forum and make various decisions on bonuses, stipends, and changes to staff positions. It also presented a first read on changes to its bylaws and Chief Financial Officer, CFO, policies. The meeting ended with an executive session for the evaluation of the executive director and for negotiations and advice to negotiators regarding the value and terms of engaging an employed CFO or contracted services. No action was taken upon the board's return. Candidate forum. Board President Ryan Graham noted that both he and Matt Ross were approaching the end of their board terms, thus opening 2 vacancies. Vice President Lindsay Clinton said there were 3 applicants, 2 of whom attended the forum, Joe Fantacone and Adam Fisher. Candidates began with a 5-minute opening statement, followed by 5 questions selected from community input by the board, and ended with a 2-minute closing statement. Vice President Lindsay Clinton said that the board picked 5 questions for the candidates to answer for up to 2 minutes. The candidates would also provide answers to a written questionnaire. Fantacone said his family chose MA, looking for more than strong academics. He has 1 child in MA, with twin boys who will join in the coming years. He wants to join the board to act as a steward to ensure MA's strength. Fisher, who has 2 boys in 5th and 7th grades who have attended since kindergarten, said he was grateful to the current board and believes strongly in MA's mission. He wants to continue the board's work and take it to the next level. Board members asked questions one after another, and the candidates took turns answering first. Questions included: why are you running? What are your top 3 objectives? Would the candidate uphold MA's policies and resolutions on parental rights and the protection of students? What is your moral standard? What role do schools play in supporting students' mental health? And, what specific changes would they make in MA policies, programs, or school curriculum? The candidates indicated they wanted to steward MA's culture and create an environment to thrive, and to strengthen the relationship between the children and parents. They both agreed they would support MA's policies and resolutions. The candidates both emphasized involving parents in any concerns about mental health, and neither wanted to make big changes to MA's policies, programs, or curriculum, emphasizing transparency and staying focused on MA's mission and vision. Clinton said the election would take place between April 27 and May 1, and results would be announced at the May 7 board meeting. Staff funding and actions. Executive Director Colin Vinchattel requested that the board approve one-time bonuses for homeschool enrichment (HSE) staff, noting that it had done so for regular staff and preschool staff earlier in the year. He said the HSE program was doing well, and there was money in the budget to support the bonuses. Vinchattel also asked the board to approve a $2,500 stipend for HSE staff for extra work to be done over the summer to prepare for the following school year. He also asked the board to approve a new position called HSE Coordinator to replace the current homeschool liaison, who is stepping back but will train the new staff member. The board unanimously approved the bonus, stipend, and new position for MA's homeschool program. Vinchattel asked the board to approve the sending of staff engagement letters with changes to 2 positions. He noted that the state's Joint Budget Committee would be late releasing the details of next year's School Finance Act, SFA, but wanted to provide early information about the position and base salary for teachers. He felt this would help lessen uncertainty and help with retention, noting that changes could be made once the SFA is released. The board unanimously approved the staff handbook for the 2026-27 school year with no changes. Vinchattel said that Joshua Miller of the school's law firm had reviewed it and said nothing from the state legislature would cause a change at this point. The staff handbook will be available via the school's board portal and can be changed should anything come up in the remainder of the legislative session. Policy updates. The board heard first reads of changes to the MA bylaws policy and the CFO policy. In the MA bylaws, Graham proposed adding a section under removal of board members to allow for a parent-initiated recall of a board member. A recall could be initiated with a verified petition with signatures from 25% of the eligible electors. Upon verifying the sufficiency of the petition, a special election would be held 60 to 90 days thereafter. So long as at least 25% of eligible electors voted and 50.1% agreed with the recall, the board member would be recalled, and a vacancy would be created. The vacancy would be filled with a vote of 2/3 of the remaining board members. Clinton noted that the next suggestion came from the internal audit in 2024 to establish a Standing Mission Advisory Committee, MAC, that is advisory in nature. It would consist of 3 participants, such as former directors, board officers, founding participants, etc. The MAC, which will be effective as of July 1, 2026, would provide review or input on material changes to the mission/vision, educational/academic design, or core principles. The board shall consider that input before taking final action on any material change. Vinchattel said that Policy 1500C Chief Financial Officer would be renamed to CCOMA and would add the following duties: preparing the financial audit, investing in funds, and making sure bond covenants are met. He said another aspect of the role is creating and maintaining a 5-year budget on a biannual basis. Graham noted that both proposed changes were first reads, and the board welcomed input from the community at http://ma-board-docs under policies. Vinchattel said he would open the comments feature so that community members could post their input. The board will bring an updated version to the May board meeting for a vote. Note: MA's board policies are available at http://www.tinyurl.com/ma-policies. Highlights. Board meeting highlights include: Spotlight. Carl spotlighted the front desk team from both campuses, including Elizabeth Alexek, Evangeline Rouleau-Glenn, Cara Giroux, and Amy Murray, saying they were an amazing team that greets everyone with a smile, keeps everything organized, and makes an effort to know each student by name. He thanked them for being the friendly faces of the school. Executive Director. Vinchattel reported that the MA Middle School was once again named a Capturing Kids' Hearts National Showcase, which speaks to the positive culture the administration has created. He noted that MA would be interviewing for a principal for the secondary school, because Angela Duca would be leaving. He also gave kudos to Registrar Lena Gross, who has seen an increase in accepted seat offers. Finance Director. Laura Poland presented finances for February and for the year to date, which show things running as expected. She noted that the finance department had been busy planning to use bond proceeds and donations for the track and field area, scoreboard, and lighting. Construction work has begun. The Legacy in Motion Capital Campaign funds are planned for bleachers, concessions, and a press box. MA has received its Fitch and Moody's rating, which she was not at liberty to release. MA is continuing to work on refinancing its bonds and has created Fund 43 for the new Performing Arts Center and deposited the initial installment of $1 million of the promised $17 million anonymous donation. Finally, she noted that the budget work for the 2026-27 school year is underway. Curriculum West. Clinton reported that the committee voted unanimously in favor of the field trip approval document. It also voted down recommending the Institute for Excellence in Writing, IEW, curriculum, because primary teachers were not in favor. Director of Academics Tina Leone asked for more time to consider concerns and do an IEW site visit. The committee asked for more guidance on core versus supplemental curriculum, she said. Curriculum East. Clinton said the committee approved the class proposal for a trip to Washington, D.C., in the 2027-28 school year. It also agreed to focus on unit writing during professional development, PD, days during 2026-27 to achieve its curriculum alignment effort. Student Accountability and Advisory Committee, SAAC, West. Clinton said the committee heard a presentation on academic data. She said new members are needed for next year and asked that parents pay attention to communication at the start of the year to hear more about the opportunity. SAAC East. Dygert said that Operations Manager Jake Dykus presented the state of MA buildings and facilities and shed some light on the use of gala and emergency funds. The committee finalized its recommendation letter to the board with responses highlighting the value of high-level academic offerings such as advanced placement tests, as well as the honors and gifted and talented programs. Respondents also valued athletic programming, with 56% saying that retention was unlikely if MA was not eligible for 4A classification. Recommendations included looking into why one-third of the community has a negative perspective on student workload expectations and exploring 3 possible ways to improve students' daily experience and support their success, she said. Graduation. Duca reported on end-of-school year events for MA seniors and invited the board to participate in the 2026 graduation ceremony on May 16. The MA school board meets at 6:30 p.m. on the second Thursday of each month. The next regular board meeting will be on May 14 at 6:30 p.m. at the East Campus. The agenda and packet are available at tinyurl.com/my-boarddocs. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. Lewis Palmer D38 Parent and Community Advisory Committee, April 14, Discussion of Bylaws, Improvements to Priority 3, Valuing Our People. By Harriet Halbig. The Lewis Palmer D38 Parent and Community Advisory Committee, PCAC, revisited discussions of its bylaws and results of a recent survey of staff by the Human Resources Department. Bylaws Discussion. Co-chair Renee Butler reminded the committee of a suggestion received regarding the makeup of the committee. An individual had expressed concern that the committee comprised the same individuals for many years, largely because members wished to participate while their children were in school. Butler received a suggestion that there be term limits for membership and that the leadership roles should circulate between schools to ensure that all would be heard. A possible objection to this idea is that the committee may not get the best leadership. Members of the committee discussed this issue in 10-minute sessions designed for small groups of about 8. One member said that she was unaware of what the PCAC was for and what its responsibilities were. Butler responded that the committee holds an orientation session at its August meeting. Another member suggested that there should be a subcommittee devoted to encouraging feedback from the schools and the public, which could then be addressed by the committee. Another member said that they heard that the Board of Education provided the committee with information to be distributed to the schools. Board President Ron Schwartz said the board values the committee as a source of rapid and accurate feedback. In the second session, a member suggested that the membership and public individuals should be listed separately, and the public should be encouraged to attend. In a related matter, a member said it would be useful if the committee notified the public of the subjects to be discussed at the next meeting and its location. It was also suggested that there be a family engagement subcommittee to ensure that information is available. Butler said the committee must vote at its May meeting to finalize the bylaws. As a point of reference, Butler distributed a document from the Colorado Department of Education listing the responsibilities of the District Accountability Advisory Committee, now called PCAC. This list demonstrates that the D38 committee has a much larger membership than required and more subcommittees, said co-chair Renee Butler. A primary state requirement is that there be at least 3 parents of students enrolled in the district, at least 1 teacher employed by the district, at least 1 administrator employed by the district, and at least one person involved in business in the community within district boundaries. In D38, all schools are represented by a parent and a staff member. There are also community members in attendance and at least 2 students at each meeting. Priority 3, Valuing Our People. Human Resources Director Michaela Vanderheiden reminded the committee of her presentation at the February meeting. To view the presentation, go to the district website lewispalmer.org, Family Resources, Community, District Committee, and choose Meeting Content for the February 10th meeting. There wasn't sufficient time to discuss the issue at the February meeting, and therefore it was postponed to the April meeting. 3 questions from a recent staff survey scored the lowest in response. The first of these is, I feel that district-level resources are allocated to maximize effectiveness across the organization. Comments from committee members included how the district communicates about what each school is requesting, and whether teachers of all subjects have the opportunity to meet district-wide to discuss needs and requests. Members said this would help all to understand how resources are allocated. Superintendent Amber Wetstein stressed the value of staff meetings as an opportunity to offer feedback. The second of these is, I feel that the district culture supports open and honest communication. Some comments mentioned that teachers need support and need to realize there is someone they can talk with to express frustration. Another comment is that if we are referring to culture by school, perhaps having staff teach each other's classes occasionally will increase their understanding. The third subject is, I see progress being made to create a culture of success for employees across the district for those we serve. The primary response to this issue was a discussion of possible non-monetary rewards to be given to acknowledge achievement. One member said a possible reward would be to get discounts from local businesses. Another said that she had been getting free coupons for pizza and other items for years and that this response is getting old. Another member suggested the use of honor coins, designed especially for this purpose. A final suggestion was to have a member of the board or administration teach the class of a high-achieving teacher to acknowledge their value. Vanderheiden said that next year's survey will come from a new source. Subcommittee reports. A member of the Financial Transparency Committee gave a detailed report of the committee's discussions on such subjects as considering joining the Colorado Benefits Trust to decrease healthcare costs, how to respond to the decline in revenue due to declining enrollment, and what the possible effect of the Monument Athletic Complex would be. The Special Education Committee report noted that the annual Alirum Day program would be held the following week. This program acknowledges individuals, district staff or others, who play a part in the life of students with disabilities. School presentation. Prairie Winds Elementary School Principal Kimberly Runyon gave a presentation about her school's history and activities. To view the presentation, please see the website as described above. Board President Schwartz gave gifts to co-chairs Renee Butler and Kristen Zook for their years of service. Butler reminded the members that 2 new co-chairs will be needed for next year. The Parent and Community Advisory Committee meets 6 times a year. Locations vary. The May 12th meeting will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. at the district's Career and Innovation Center, 1200 Cynthus Avenue in Monument. For a tour of the facility, arrive 1/2 hour early. For additional information, please contact tmckee@lewispalmer.org. Harriet Halbig may be reached at harriethalbig@ocn.me. Lewis Palmer D38 Board of Education, April 20, 2026-27 Budget, Transportation Fees, Curriculum Adoption among Topics. By Harriet Halbig. The Lewis Palmer District 38 Board of Education discussed the 2026-27 budget, determined transportation fees for 2026-27, and approved a list of capital investments for the upcoming school year. Financial planning. Chief Business Officer Brett Ridgway outlined plans for the district's 2026-27 budget. Ridgway said that the School Finance Act, which provides the bulk of the district's revenue through per-pupil operating revenue, PPOR, has not yet been passed by the state legislature. It was expected to pass at the end of April or very early May. The district must submit a proposed budget at the board's May meeting. Current PPOR is $11,120, and the district is seeing a decline in enrollment. Ridgway said that there is not expected to be a change in PPOR for the coming year, requiring the district to adjust its planning by right-sizing, staffing and programs to accommodate the decline in revenue because of the drop in enrollment. It is expected that the operating schools will see a decline of $1.8 million in revenue, while Monument Academy will see an increase of $120,000. In his explanation of financial planning, Ridgway detailed his approach to such aspects as compensation, capital investments, and fees for transportation, which will be detailed later in this article. Note: to view his presentation on the subject, please go to the district website, lewispalmer.org, Board of Education, Board Docs, select the meeting date, view the agenda, and click on the agenda item to view the PowerPoint and School Finance Act projections. Regarding compensation, Ridgway said the district currently has 803 regular employees. He anticipates a decrease in this number to about 770. This would allow for an average 2.06% increase in compensation, with the percentage increase varying. Those who are relatively low paid will receive a higher percentage increase, while those who are at the top of the scale, such as administrators and principals, will receive a step increase. When asked how the district compares to others in the area in regard to compensation, Ridgway said that D38 ranks 14th of 16 in compensation. He said it is sometimes difficult to determine where D38 ranks because some districts claim to give non-recurring increases, which basically are bonuses, while others can offer larger increases due to mill levy overrides and other revenue sources. Superintendent Amber Wetstein commented that a few small, rural districts are able to offer 4%. Ridgway anticipates that the district will have about $813,000 for compensation increases. Employment contracts will be issued in early May. Note: the detailed proposed pay scale is included in the presentation in Board Docs. Curriculum discussion. Executive Director of Education Services Alicia Welch and Curriculum and Instructional Specialist Jana Strahan reported on proposed new materials in English language arts. The proposed curriculum includes Into Literature by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for grades 6 to 8 and grades 9 to 10. These materials were available for public review and comment from April 1 to April 14 and were generally rated as acceptable or superior. Welch said that these materials include digital access and teacher training. The board will be asked to approve their use at the May meeting. Transportation fees. Ridgway reported that school districts are not required by law to provide transportation, but District 38, because of its size, has chosen to do so. Transportation of special education students is required by law, and those students who qualify for free/reduced lunch are provided transportation at no cost. The problem is to determine what percentage of a student's PPR should be devoted to providing transportation and what percentage should be provided by those who use the service. In this district, about 20 to 25% of students use the service. The cost of an annual pass was $200 in 2020-21 and increased to $275 this year. After offering several alternatives, Ridgway proposed a cost of $300 in 2026-27. The board voted to approve the cost of $300 for a pass after some discussion of whether families may choose to leave the district due to the expense. Capital project discussion. Capital projects are defined as the acquisition of land, improvements, construction of structures, additions to structures, and acquisition of equipment, such as buses. The current process for considering such projects is to ask each school or building to submit requests, including cost, while the district also keeps a list of buildings and equipment reaching the end of their useful life and provides a cushion for emergencies such as boiler failures, ADA compliance issues, and write-ups from the fire department and other agencies. The district maintains a master list of capital needs with a budget of $2.5 million for this year. To view this list, please see Board Docs. Ridgway reported that of 75 issues that were submitted, 39 were considered a priority and 17 were proposed for funding. Of 29 issues involving the lifespan of a project, 4 were proposed for funding. A project involving security concerns at Prairie Winds Elementary School was discussed at the April 7 work session and was not funded. A separate meeting involving staff and community members addressed the issue. Vice President Dr. Patty Schenk said that the subject will be discussed in a future executive session due to the security concerns. Recognitions. The board recognized students and athletes from the D38 Unified Basketball Team, which includes athletes of many ages and schools, for taking first place in their division at the Spring Special Olympics State Championship. The board recognized the staff and advisor of the Palmer Ridge High School Yearbook, the Epilogue, for being among 62 of the best yearbooks in the country from among 900 submissions. Art teacher Mallory Bonsall was the advisor for the 2025 issue. Palmer Ridge Principal Dr. Adam Frank was also in attendance. The board recognized D38 Chess Director Steve Waldman and his wife, Cindy, for organizing the tournament that took place in Bear Creek Elementary School in March. Waldman said that it was the 19th annual event and thanked the Bear Creek principal, key club members, and members of the National Honor Society for their help. With 119 participants, this is the second largest chess tournament in the state. The student representative attending the meeting was Juliana Wainwright of Lewis Palmer High School. Wainwright offered a presentation about her school's activities and achievements, including the success of its speech/debate team, which saw 2 state champions and 11 state placers, and the creation of the Vital Vote, an organization promoting political activism among students. To view her presentation, please see board docs. The Lewis Palmer D38 Board of Education meets on the third Monday of each month from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Bauman Learning Center, 146 Jefferson Street in Monument. The next meeting will be on May 18th. For information, please contact VWOOD@lewispalmer.org. Harriet Halbig may be reached at harriethalbig@ocn.me. Donala Water and Sanitation District, March 27th and April 16th, Board hires new General Manager. By James Howell and Jackie Burr-Hans. At a special session on March 27th, the Donala Water and Sanitation District, DWSD, Board interviewed finalists for the role of General Manager and chose John Quasman to fill the position. At its regular meeting on April 16th, the Board heard 3 presentations addressing complex strategic decisions facing the Board. Kelsey Briggs and Carly Bonwell, of Spheros Environmental, discussed Donala's renewable water rights and analyzed how exchanges could be used to maximize the district's ability to translate water rights into water available to its customers. Brett Gracely, of Plummer, led the Board in a discussion of 4 alternative approaches to water source management the district could pursue. Todd Cristiano, of Raftelis, analyzed how the district's participation in the Loop Water Reuse Project and decisions about its wastewater treatment will affect user rates. Quasman to manage district. The Board interviewed Christina Hawker, who is currently serving as Interim General Manager, John Quasman, Kevin Niles, and Jonathan Smith for the job of General Manager. The 4 finalists were selected from a field of 14 applicants. They were asked about their qualifications, management experience, plans for transitioning into the role, and vision for the district. Quasman previously served as the interim workflow manager for the Loop. Following the interviews, the Board moved into an executive session to discuss the interviews. After returning to open session, Director Ken Judd moved to offer the job to Quasman at a salary of $190,000, and the Board voted unanimously in favor. Judd made a second motion to promote Hawker to Deputy General Manager and Chief Financial Officer at a salary of $175,000, effective immediately, and the Board voted all aye. Water exchanges minimize stranded water. In an introductory letter to the Board, Briggs said Donala currently relies mostly on non-renewable groundwater drawn from Denver Basin aquifers, and this reliance brings risks for the district's customers. In addition to groundwater, Donala has 3 renewable water rights, but 2 of the 3 are stranded, that is, the district currently has no way to convey the water to its customers. Donala's Laughlin Ditch water and the effluent from its Upper Monument Creek Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, UMCRWWTF, are in the stranded category. The Laughlin Ditch diverts water from Fountain Creek near the Stratmoor Hills neighborhood in southwest Colorado Springs. The district also has renewable water from its Willow Creek Ranch near Leadville. DWSD has a contract with Colorado Springs Utilities to treat its Willow Creek water and convey it to customers after it is stored in the Pueblo Reservoir. In her presentation, Briggs explained that a water exchange is an administrative mechanism that allows water to be diverted from an upstream exchange to location and then replaced at a downstream exchange from location, so that other water right owners get the water they are entitled to. In effect, water exchanges move water upstream without the use of pumps or pipelines. Water exchanges do not create additional water for water right holders but allow existing water rights to be used more efficiently and sustainably, Briggs said, and can be used to make stranded water available to customers. The district has 4 exchange-to locations: the Chilkat Ditch Headgate, an inlet of Bristlecone Reservoir off Beaver Creek, a future point of diversion at the confluence of Jackson Creek and Monument Creek, and a non-potable pipeline diverting off Monument Creek directly below the UMCRWWTF. The district has 5 exchange-from locations: the confluence of the Arkansas River and Fountain Creek, the Stonewall Springs Reservoir Complex, the Spring Creek Augmentation Station, the outfall of the UMCRWWTF and the outfall of the J.D. Phillips Water Resource Recovery Facility. Briggs analyzed how the locations above could be connected to minimize the district's reliance on its costly contract with CSU, use its Laughlin water rights and UMCRWWTF effluent return flows, avoid having to release water when the Pueblo Reservoir is full, avoid the need to lease water to downstream users at below-market rates, and support the district's aquifer storage and recovery goals. Each of the possible exchanges has its own average and maximum potential to convey water, number of days when water is likely to be available for exchange, requirements for storage, and set of legalities related to water rights. Briggs noted that exchanges can vary in their volumes between wet and dry years, so groundwater would continue to be necessary as a backup. Board President Wayne Vanderschwer said the district's goal was to transition as completely as possible to renewable water sources and asked Briggs which scenario would bring the district closest to that goal. Briggs suggested pursuing several exchanges simultaneously. Vanderschwer asked Briggs to continue her analysis by ranking the exchanges with and without the loop. For water source strategies discussed, Gracely laid out 4 alternatives for the board to consider. Alternative 0, increase reliance on groundwater and plan to replace one well every 3 years instead of every 7 years, at a long-term cost of $167 million. Alternative 1, make greater use of water provided by CSU, while still pumping 500 acre-feet per year of groundwater, at a long-term cost of $143 million. Alternative 2, participate in the Loop Water Reuse Project, at a long-term cost of $160 million. Alternative 3, make full use of water exchanges, at a long-term cost of $112 million. Each alternative was discussed from the perspective that DWSD might continue to operate the UMCRWWTF by itself or might decide to participate in the Northern Monument Creek Interceptor (NMCI) project. The NMCI is a project managed by CSU that conveys wastewater from districts north of Colorado Springs to CSU's J.D. Phillips Water Resource Recovery Facility, thereby sparing those districts the cost of operating their own treatment facilities. DWSD currently operates the UMCRWWTF with 2 partners, Triview Metropolitan District and Forest Lakes Metropolitan District, but those partners have decided to move to the NMCI to handle their wastewater. NMCI does not provide a way for participating districts to reuse their treated wastewater. Vanderschwer pointed out that the alternatives 0 and 1 could be done at the discretion of DWSD alone, but neither advances the district's goal of moving to all renewable water sources. DWSD's Laughlin water rights remain stranded in those approaches. Alternative 2, participation in the loop, provides more renewable water at a lower price, Vanderschwer said. He added that using the NMCI was more expensive in present value. Gracely said, if he could wave a wand, the loop would be built at an affordable price. DWSD would get an exchange decree to convey its Willow Creek Ranch water to the Chilkat Ditch and would be able to use 300 acre-feet per year of its Laughlin water rights, and direct potable reuse of effluent from the UMCRWWTF would be added as a water source. Both choices require rate increases. Cristiano discussed how 2 scenarios will impact rates from 2027 to 2035. Scenario 1, DWSD participates in the loop and is sole operator of the UMCRWWTF. Scenario 2, DWSD participates in the loop and joins the NMCI project. Cristiano said Scenario 1 would add $3.8 million in new debt service per year by 2035, while Scenario 2 would add $4.7 million in new debt service over the same period. Scenario 1 would require operating and maintenance costs of $2.2 million per year, while Scenario 2 would require lower operating and maintenance costs of $1.8 million per year. Both scenarios require $7 million in well replacements. Both scenarios lead to significant rate increases between 2027 and 2030, after which time rate increases will decrease to 3% per year until 2035. Scenario 1 will require the following increases for the next 4 years. 2027 to 20%. 2028 to 14%. 2029 to 13%. 2030 to 12%. Scenario 2 will require the following increases over the same period. 2027 to 26%. 2028 to 15%. 2029 to 15%. 2030 to 10%. The next board meeting is on Thursday, May 21st, at 1:30 p.m. Generally, board meetings are held the third Thursday of the month at 1:30 p.m. and include online access. Call 719-488-3603 or access www.donalawater.org to receive up-to-date meeting information. The district office is located at 15850 Holbein Drive, Colorado Springs. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. Woodmoor Water and Sanitation District, April 9, District signs on to PFAS lawsuit. By James Howell. At its April 9 meeting, the Woodmoor Water and Sanitation District, WWSD, Board approved a letter of engagement with the SL Environmental Law Group PC, SLEL, to investigate recovering costs to the district for future PFAS mitigation related to the Loop project. It awarded a contract for site work at Well 12R and agreed to lease water to the Arkansas Groundwater and Reservoir Association, AGRA. Note, Arkansas refers to the Arkansas River, not the state. The board sold a small piece of land to El Paso County and amended its lease with Apollo's Park Solar LLC. It heard financial and operational reports, and the meeting ended with an executive session. District could participate in PFAS settlement. Tamara Seaver, WWSD's attorney, told the board that 3M and DuPont have agreed to a settlement requiring them to reimburse cities, towns, and public water systems for costs related to contamination by PFAS chemicals in products those companies produced. The company's new PFAS chemicals posed health risks but continued to sell products including them. Together, 3M and DuPont have put aside up to $12.5 billion to pay for damages resulting from PFAS, Seaver said. PFAS chemicals, sometimes called forever chemicals because they do not naturally break down over time, have been used in a wide range of products, including Teflon nonstick cookware and fire suppression foam and clothing. They can cause serious health problems, including cancer. Seaver said she believed WWSD met the criteria to participate in the PFAS payout and recommended the district sign a letter of engagement with SLEL, which will pursue the district's claim to compensation. In response to a question from Director Roy Martinez, Operations Superintendent Dan LaFontaine said that WWSD has tested the groundwater it pumps from its wells and the water it diverts from Monument Creek, and both of those sources are free from PFAS. However, Fountain Creek does contain PFAS, LaFontaine said, and when WWSD begins to deliver water from Woodmoor Ranch to its customers via the Loop Water Reuse Project, that water will need to be treated to remove PFAS chemicals. Martinez pointed out that funds from the PFAS settlement would help defray the costs of PFAS mitigation. The design for the advanced water treatment plant that will be part of the Loop infrastructure uses granulated activated charcoal, GAC, to remove PFAS before the water is delivered to customers, according to a presentation from Burns and McDonnell, the company that did the preliminary design for the plant delivered to the Loop Board of Directors on February 18. Further details about the design of the plant can be found here, https://wp. ocn.me/v26n3loop/. Board President Brian Bush said SLEL would receive a contingency fee of 25% of any money collected from the PFAS settlement. He noted contingency fees of 40% were common. He recommended the board authorize him to sign the letter of engagement with SLEL. Seaver told the board that if it did not pursue its claim from the current PFAS settlement, it would be barred from seeking relief from 3M and DuPont in the future. The board voted unanimously to authorize Bush to sign the letter of engagement. Well 12R contract awarded. Richard Hood, of JVA Incorporated, told the board that, following a request for proposal published in March, two companies made bids to complete work at the site of Well 12R, a re-drilled well in South Woodmoor Preserve near Muzzle Loader Way. The work includes moving the pump and pump motor from the original Well 12 into the re-drilled well, installing site piping to move water from Well 12R to the wellhouse, testing electrical cabling, and landscaping. Gordon Construction Company, Inc. submitted the low bid at $238,000. The bid from Glacier Construction Company, Inc. was much higher at $452,000, Hood said. Schaefer asked that 15% be added to the bid for contingencies, and the board voted to authorize $270,000 for the project and award the contract to Gordon Construction. Woodmoor Ranch water leased to AGRA. Schaefer told the board that the district's water attorney, Fritz Holloman, had vetted a lease for the district to provide water from Woodmoor Ranch to AGRA until November of 2026 for $135 per acre-foot. Schaefer said projections indicated the district could provide up to 1,500 acre-feet of water, yielding $100,000 to $200,000. He explained that AGRA leases water from many sources and resells it to farmers who need to offset depletions resulting from pumping groundwater. Schaefer noted that the lease would be the first time the district uses water from Woodmoor Ranch for municipal purposes, after completing the revegetation required to transition the water from agricultural to municipal applications. LaFontaine said the lease did not commit the district to providing a set amount of water. We could send nothing, or we could send 500 acre-feet. In return for flexibility on the amount of water to be provided, the district accepted a lower price per acre-foot. The board voted unanimously to execute the lease agreement with AGRA. County buys land, temporary easement. Schaefer asked the board to consider selling 350 square feet of land at the intersection of Deer Creek Road and Base Camp Road, just east of Securcare Self-Storage, along with a temporary 5,000 square foot easement, for $15,725. The county wants the land and easement for the construction of roadway improvements and drainage facilities. The board voted unanimously to approve the sale. Lease for solar array amended. At its meeting in March, WWSD discussed its agreement with Apollo's Park Solar LLC, which leases 100 acres of Woodmoor Ranch to use as the site of a solar array. At its April meeting, the board authorized Bush to sign an amended version of the lease, which makes clear that Apollo's Park will pay rent for the remainder of the year and addresses Seaver's concerns that the lease, which was originally signed with Enerfin Renewables LLC, can properly be transferred to Apollo's Park. The board authorized Bush to sign the amended lease. Financial and operational reports. In his financial report, Board Treasurer Dana Franzen noted that his original estimate of the net income for the district in 2025 was $686,000 too low, and the final number was $1.25 million. Adjustments to the interest expense for 2025 accounted for the increase in net income. For 2026, Franzen said revenue for the first 2 months of 2026 is a bit ahead of plan. The district has billed for more water at a higher rate than at the same time last year and was $528,000 in the black at the end of February. Franzen was surprised by the high amount of overtime in the first 2 months of 2026. Schaefer explained that a higher than usual number of distribution system failures led to more overtime. In his manager's report, Schaefer said the Loop Water Reuse Project, for which he serves as the board president, was ramping up an effort to educate the public. He and Martinez spoke to the Pikes Peak Regional Home Builders Department about the Loop's plan to transition customers from non-renewable aquifers to renewable water sources, and they have been invited to address the Kiwanis Club. In his water report, LaFontaine noted that despite the dry weather, the district is diverting 450,000 gallons a day from Monument Creek to Lake Woodmoor. The lake is within 3 feet of its maximum capacity, LaFontaine said, adding, "It feels we are finally back on track, after having to drain the lake completely to maintain the dam and upgrade the lift station." Executive session. The meeting ended with an executive session regarding the purchase or sale of real property, the receipt of legal advice on agreements with Rex Colorado Corporation, the Loop Water Authority and Quantum Group. A personnel issue was also on the agenda. No action was taken following the executive session. The next meeting is on May 11 at 1 p.m. Meetings are usually held on the second Monday of each month at 1 p.m. at the district office at 1845 Woodmoor Drive. Please see www.woodmoorwater.com or call 719-488-2525 to verify meeting times and locations. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. Monument Sanitation District, April 15, Monument Ridge West Edition included in service area. By Jackie Burr Hans and James Howell. At its meeting in April, the Monument Sanitation District, MSD, board held a public meeting, followed by a vote, on a petition to include a 10-acre property in the MSD service area. The board approved minor changes to the district's employee handbook and heard a report from District Manager Mark Parker. Public hearing and vote on inclusion. Board President Dan Hamilton opened a public hearing on a petition from Monument Ridge West LLC, MRW, to include a 10-acre property just west of I-25 into the MSD service area. MRW recently received a boundary line adjustment from El Paso County, adding the 10 acres to a larger property it already owns at the intersection of I-25 and County Line Road, which has been discussed as a possible location for a Buc-ee's travel center. Parker explained that the petition was for inclusion into the district's service area and was not an annexation. Hamilton added that annexations are done by municipalities. Special districts, such as MSD, use the legal process of inclusion, which is much simpler than annexation, when they need to add property into their service areas. Parker added that an engineering study determined that MSD has adequate infrastructure to support the inclusion. Hamilton said the developer would pay to install the pipeline along Beacon Light Road needed to convey wastewater from the site to MSD's existing sewer lines adjacent to the Wakanda Hills neighborhood. Parker said the pipeline would need to be installed before El Paso County completes its project to straighten and level Beacon Light Road, as the county would put a moratorium on any work requiring changes to the road once its project is completed. Parker said the contractor MRW hired to install the pipeline has reached out to the district to review final plans and discuss a budget for the work. Hamilton closed the hearing, and the board voted unanimously to approve the petition for inclusion. Employee Handbook updated. The board voted in favor of Resolution 26-04152026, which makes minor corrections regarding hours of work and paid time off policies in the Employee Handbook. Manager's Report. Parker told the board he had received paperwork for a Chipotle Mexican grill to open in the space that previously housed an Arby's. Monument Sanitation District meetings are held at 9 a.m. on the third Wednesday of the month in the District Conference Room at 132nd Street, Monument. The next regular meeting is scheduled for May 20th. See monumentsanitation.district.org. For a district service map, see www.monumentsanitation.district.org/district-map. For information, 719-481-4886. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. El Paso County Regional Loop Water Authority, April 16, design contracts awarded. By James Howell. The El Paso County Regional Loop Water Authority, EPCRLWA, or the Loop, awarded contracts for the design of two major portions of the loop at its April meeting. Board President Jesse Schaefer discussed an extension of the deadline for the loop to spend the money it received from the American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA. Rebecca Hutchinson, the loop's interim workflow manager, gave the board an update, and Schaefer presented a financial report on behalf of Fromm & Company, the loop's accounting firm. In anticipation of hiring its first employee, an executive director, the board adopted an employee handbook. Pipeline design and reservoir expansion contracts awarded. Schaefer told the board that he had discussed the future of the contract to design the pumps and pipelines with the other directors on the loop board, and a consensus was reached to hire JVA Incorporated to complete the design that was begun by Burns and McDonnell. Burns and McDonnell brought the design of 28 miles of pipeline and 5 pump stations, needed to convey treated water from the Callahan Reservoir to customers in the participating water districts, to 30% completion. The terms of the loop's funding from ARPA required the remainder of the design work to be rebid, Schaefer said, and JVA's proposal led to it being chosen to complete the design. He asked Hutchinson to reach out to JVA to start the process. Schaefer said CDM Smith would continue with its design work for the expansion of the Callahan Reservoir. ARPA deadline extended. Schaefer said about $1.3 million of the $4 million the loop received from ARPA in 2022 remain to be spent. The act required the funds, which are administered by the El Paso Board of County Commissioners, BOCC, to be spent by June 30, 2026. Kathy Fromm, the loop's accountant, asked the commissioners for a 3-month extension of the deadline, which the commissioners granted, giving the loop until September to spend the funds. Schaefer said the extension took pressure off the loop board. Project update. Hutchinson said she was attending meetings to manage the integration of JVA into the work on the advanced water treatment plant and other aspects of the loop. She noted there was continued interest in the loop on the part of contractors and engineering companies. Merrick & Company reviewed the design work on the Callahan Reservoir expansion. Western States Land Services LLC has completed the survey work required for the easements for the southern alignment, which will connect the water treatment plant at the Callahan Reservoir to the Sundance Pipeline, and for the northern alignment, which will connect the Sundance Pipeline to consumers in the participating districts. The survey work for the central alignment, which consists of the Sundance Pipeline, is ongoing, Hutchinson said, noting that some landowners are holding back in their easement negotiations. Financial report. Schaefer told the board invoices totaling $253,000 had been received in March. The board authorized payment. He said the BOCC had reimbursed the Loop for its Q4 2025 expenses, and the Loop's cash reserves were $595,000 at the end of March. The board voted unanimously to accept the financial report. Employee handbook presented. Schaefer presented an employee handbook for the board's consideration. The Loop is hiring an executive director, who will be its first employee, and the handbook is part of that process, Schaefer said. The Loop will abide by the rules of the Family Medical Leave Act, a federal program that provides unpaid medical leave, Schaefer said, arguing it was needed to attract the level of employee the Loop is seeking for the executive director position. The board will vote on the handbook at its next meeting. The next regular meeting is scheduled for May 21 at 9 a.m. Regular meetings are held on the third Thursday of each month at 9 a.m. at the Monument Town Hall at 645 Beacon Light Road. Please see loopwater.org or call 719-488-3603 to verify meeting times and locations. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. Triview Metropolitan District, April 23, Northern Monument Creek Interceptor funded, 2026 budget amended. By Natalie Barsh. Editor's note: OCN needs a reporter to cover Triview Metropolitan District meetings. We will train you. Contact John Heiser at 719-488-3455. At the Triview Metropolitan District, TMD, regular meeting on April 23, the board approved bond funding for the Northern Monument Creek Interceptor, NMCI, project and held a public hearing before approving amendments to the 2026 budget. The board received updates on the district's water availability and well levels, and the efforts to mitigate forested areas of the district, and the Higbee Road Improvement Project. The board held an executive session regarding an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, with the Town of Monument, TOM, and IGAs related to the NMCI project. NMCI project funding. The board received a presentation from Katak Rock LLP, providing bond counsel for the proposed issuance of water and wastewater enterprise bonds to fund the cost-sharing agreement for the NMCI. The proposed bonds are not to exceed $35 million, with interest rates capped at 5.75% and payments backloaded to minimize annual costs from 2028 through 2056. Background: the NMCI project is a proposed 10.1-mile pipeline that would transport untreated wastewater from TMD and Forest Lakes Metropolitan District, FLMD, to the Colorado Springs Utilities, CSU, J.D. Phillips Water Resource Recovery Facility, near I-25 and Garden of the Gods Road, for processing. See https://wp. ocn.me/v26n4tmd. The agreement provides a 99-year contract per term for the treatment of the district's wastewater and allows ownership in the pipeline, providing an asset for financing the project via bonds from the Enterprise Fund. Voter approval is not required for the Enterprise Fund. The board unanimously approved Resolution 2026-2006, a resolution approving revenue bonds for the participation in the NMCI. 2026 Budget Amendment. The board held a public hearing for the proposed budget amendment before District Manager James McGrady said the 2026 budget required amending due to the following costs and revenues that were unknown in December 2025 when the budget was originally approved. The NMCI project is the largest construction cost undertaken by the district, estimated at about $33 million. FLMD will contribute about 20% of the annual debt service, while the district will be responsible for the remaining 80% of the debt service. Water for dust suppression in construction zones west of I-25 as well as the work being done along Higbee Road has proven to be substantial. The administrative and utility building, which was not completed by December 31, 2025 but was delayed until March. The district is rebuilding Higbee Road, which should be fully completed in 2026. Additional tap fees generated from the Meritage Home Development. The board unanimously approved Resolution 2026-2005, a resolution amending the 2026 budget that accounts for additional revenue generated from the issuance of the revenue bonds associated with the NMCI, along with the expenses associated with that project and with the expedited construction schedule for Higbee Road. Water Operations Update. McGrady said the regional spring runoff was the lowest on record and decreed water rights obtained after 1875 cannot be used. The state has given the district approval to operate both the Arkansas Valley Irrigation Company, AVIC, and Bale Infrastructure, but unfortunately, the AVIC is already out of priority and is unlikely to come into priority for any meaningful amount of time in 2026. The district has 600 acre-feet of water rights available in the Fountain Mutual Irrigation Company and, through a complex number of water exchanges on paper, can obtain some of the district water rights, said McGrady. Water attorney Chris Cummins said the Arkansas River received only one-third of the usual snow, and as such, the runoff has more than likely peaked given the unseasonable temperature in March. Water Treatment Superintendent Gary Potter said the following. The Northern Delivery System, NDS, produced 57% of the district's water in March. During the first year the NDS was brought online, the static level of the Denver wells had gained 25% replenishment due to inactivity, but the Arapahoe wells had not gained. The district is awaiting parts for the pump replacement of well A7. The Consumer Confidence Report can be viewed on the district website. The district saw the lowest water loss in March at 1.44%. The snowpack in the Arkansas River Basin is disappearing quickly, which is limiting the ability to divert water. However, with over a year's supply of surface water in storage and the Denver Basin groundwater wells, the district is well positioned to overcome this temporary operating limitation, said Potter. Higbee Road Improvement Update. McGrady said Kiewit is installing all curbs and gutters for the Higbee Road Improvement Project, and the construction of the Maverick Apartment Complex, consisting of 14 buildings, is underway. Note, message boards providing updates on the project and a link to the road closures and detours are available at https://triviewhigbyroad.com. District Mitigation Efforts. Parks and Open Spaces Superintendent Matt Reno said the district staff are planning to prevent further beetle kill within the district by removing damaged pines around Sanctuary Point Park in May. A chipping day is scheduled with Monument Fire District for Promontory Point and Sanctuary Point residents on August 17. The rules will be provided to residents wishing to have brush chipped. Residents will be responsible for clearing brush and making it available to crews for chipping. Venison Creek Park construction complete. Reno announced the new Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, play area in Venison Creek Park had been completed, and a ribbon cutting would be scheduled on June 5. See the district website for timings. The board moved into an executive session at about 8 p.m. Meetings are usually held on the third Thursday of the month at the district office located at 1641 Baja Drive, West Baptist Road, with temporary access via Old Denver Road. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for May 21 at 5:30 p.m. For Zoom meeting joining instructions, meeting agendas, minutes, and updates, visit https://triviewmetro.com. Natalie Barsh can be contacted at nataliebarsh@ocn.me. Monument Fire District, April 25, Station 3 construction begins, training center is approved. By Natalie Barsh. Editor's note, OCN needs a reporter to cover Monument Fire District meetings. We will train you. Contact John Heiser at 719-488-3455. At the Tri-Lakes Monument Fire Protection District, TLMFPD, DBA Monument Fire District, MFD, meeting via Microsoft Teams on April 22, the board heard the district had received approval for the Station 1 training center, and the rebuild of Station 3 had begun. The board held an executive session to discuss candidates for the executive recruitment of the fire chief position. Directors Steve Phillips and Mike Smaldino were excused. Station 1 training center receives approval. Chief of Administration Jamie Bumgarner said the site plan for the proposed Station 1 Training Center 4-story tower had received approval from the Town Council on April 6. The site grading will begin, and the tower structure is expected to be in place by the end of September or early October. Training could commence in November. See the Monument Town Council article on page 1. Fire Station 3 rebuild underway. Bumgarner said the construction for the rebuild of Fire Station 3 at 17320 Jackson Creek Parkway, north of the Tri-Lakes YMCA, had begun. The rebuild is expected to take about a year to complete. The Chief's reports and the 2025 annual report can be viewed at www.monumentfire.org. Executive Session. The board moved into an executive session at about 5:30 p.m. to discuss the candidate list for the executive recruitment for the fire chief position. Meetings are usually held on the fourth Wednesday of every month. The next regular meeting is scheduled for May 27 at 4:30 p.m. at Station 1, 18650 Highway 105. For Microsoft Teams virtual joining instructions, agendas, minutes, and updates, visit www.monumentfire.org or contact Director of Administration Jennifer Martin at 719-484-9011. Natalie Barsh can be contacted at nataliebarsh@ocn.me. Shiloh Pines Wildfire Preparedness Meeting, March 7, Ready, Set, Go. 4 Wildfires. By Lisa Hatfield. Shiloh Pines Firewise Chair Gail Hum invited residents to hear from Monument Fire District, MFD, Community Risk Reduction Specialist Aaron Wood on March 7. Wood explained the importance of planning for wildfire emergencies and recommended: be ready, set, go, for wildland fire when it comes here. Pick up your personal Wildland Fire Action Guide at the MFD Administrative Office, 19775 Mitchell Avenue, Monument. This brochure lists many no-cost and low-cost strategies for hardening structures so flying embers and sparks are less likely to burn them down. Learn to create a defensible space around your home by reducing and rearranging the fuels. Make an evacuation and a family meetup plan as they describe. Residents should contact their local fire district to ask for a wildfire site assessment. Sign up for peakalerts.org to receive reverse 9/11 notifications about emergencies near your home, work, or school. MFD residents and businesses can create a secure account at Community Connect that only firefighters can access, and only on their way to an emergency. People can warn and inform first responders about people with special needs, aggressive or anxious pets, gate or garage codes, hazardous materials, etc., which will make it easier for them to help you. See www.communityconnect.io/info/code-monument. Wood said the hardest job he has to do in a wildfire is flagging houses that firefighters cannot even try to defend. However, if residents make it easy for them to access the property and have reduced the fuel around the home, that can give firefighters a chance to defend it. Interested in MFD's/chipping program? Neighborhoods interested in fuels reduction should contact Wood to see if you can join the more than 30 HOAs already involved. Lisa Hatfield can be reached at lisahatfield@ocn.me. El Paso Board of County Commissioners, March 31 and April 9, Highway 105B project agreement approved. By Marlene Brown. The Highway 105 widening project continues moving east. The BOCC has the authority to purchase and hold real estate and personal property for the use of the county when deemed by the board to be in the best interest of the county and its capital projects. On March 31, the BOCC approved an agreement for the Public Works Department to construct a Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority project known as Highway 105B. On April 9, the BOCC approved the final plat for Red Rock Acres Subdivision SF 2513 for lots 1 to 6, located west of Highway 105 between Red Rock Ranch Drive and Rockbrook Road. The approval was based upon the conformance of the applicant who had submitted all issues that were required, to include water sufficiency studies, adequate storm drainage plans, traffic impact studies, and other reports for the county and the state. The lots will be served by individual wells and on-site septic systems. Approval was unanimous on the consent agenda. Also on the agenda was the Willow Springs Town of Monument Annexation Impact Report. The Town of Monument requested that about 39.6 acres west of Willow Ranch Road and north of Forest Lakes Drive be annexed. The BOCC acknowledged the report of the potential impacts for the future annexation. No action by the BOCC was required, and it was to be reviewed on April 8 by the Monument Planning Commission and on May 4 by the Monument Town Council. The BOCC usually meets every Tuesday at 9 a.m. at 200 South Cascade Avenue Suite 100, Colorado Springs. The BOCC Land Use Committee meets on the second and fourth Thursdays as needed. Call 719-520-7276 for more information. Go to bocc.elpasoco.com or https://www.agendasuite.org/ip/elpaso for meeting schedules and agendas. Marlene Brown may be reached at marlenebrown@ocn.me. Woodmoor Improvement Association, April 22, volunteers maintain trails. By Jackie Burr Hans. The Woodmoor Improvement Association, WA, board met on April 22 to hear about a volunteer effort to maintain common trails and heard director reports. Volunteers. Residents Dawn Roney and Cindy Thrush, a former WIA board member, spoke about their efforts to work on trails that connect common areas. Roney said she wanted to share with the board a volunteer effort that she began with Thrush. Roney said she heard about the Safe Routes to School, SRTS, project involving D38, WIA, and Woodmoor Water and Sanitation District, which will provide a walking path between Lewis Palmer Elementary School, Lewis Palmer Middle School, and Palmer Ridge High School. She noted that the bridge that will cross the Woodmoor Lake spillway had been delivered, adding that she was very excited about the path. For more information, search for SRTS at www.ocn.me. Thrush had already known about the project, and the two of them thought it would be cool to have some walking trails to connect to the Commons property. They had started informally but wanted to get more serious, she said, so they identified walking tracks and informal trails and began marking them with blue flags and cleaning off pine needles. Through their efforts, they met other residents who were mowing and picking up trash in common areas close to their property. They shared information about SRTS and had many interesting conversations, Thrush said. Roney said they had noticed some trees with some issues that might require risk reduction. This year, she and Thrush got t-shirts that say, Safe Route Volunteer Maintenance. She passed out a map showing the area where they had been working, SRTS, and interior roads that have less traffic. Architectural Control Committee Director Ed Miller noted that with Woodmoor Lake, the common area goes behind people's homes, though that might not be clear to them. President Brian Bush commended Roney, Thrush, and others for taking an interest in the community and neighbors and for their efforts. He requested that they work closely with Commons Area Director Steve Cutler to ensure he can assess if any of their work should come to the notice of the board and whether WIA should get involved. Bush said that WIA has an obligation to maintain the trails and common areas in a safe condition and thanked them for making the trails better. Director highlights. Vice President. Bush reported in Peter Billy's absence that he had instructed the board's IT consultant to get new phones using available money in the reserve account. Community outreach. Bush said he attended the latest Northern El Paso Coalition of Community Organizations, NEPCO, meeting and heard a presentation by the president of Triview Metropolitan District. Triview manages parks, roads, water, and sewer for the part of Monument that is east of I-25. He reported that Monument will undertake a project to improve one lane of Jackson Creek Parkway, JCP, going north from Higbee and Whataburger. He said there was no mention of timing for improving JCP heading south. Treasurer. Bush reported for Treasurer Pete Giusti that revenues are on track except for new construction fees. There are funds available for common areas and forestry that haven't been expended yet. HOA Administrator. Denise Caliero reported 301 unpaid accounts and noted that 2 phones had been replaced. Bush said that liens would be placed no later than May 15 and would incur a fee of $300. Covenants. Director Jennifer Davis reported 31 covenant items with 2 violations issued in March. There were no unfounded complaints, and 25 issues were resolved with friendly communications. There were 19 HOA checks in March. There were no hearings in March, but 2 hearings in April resulted in 1 fine. There are no May hearings scheduled at this time. Davis reminded residents that real estate signs may not exceed 1 square foot and only 1 sign is allowed per lot. Bush asked if Covenants Administrator Kelsey Spencer could produce a monthly report on covenants. Forestry Director Jason Hen said he wanted to discuss a database or customer relationship management (CRM) application for tracking but said that Spencer is starting with an Excel spreadsheet. Public Safety. Director Brad Gleason said there were no significant security issues, but there are a lot of red flag days indicating high fire danger. He said that nights are longer and temperatures are higher, so more kids are running around. He asked that residents be cautious when driving in the community. Architectural Control. Miller reported 36 project submissions in March, 31 of which were approved administratively. 1 was approved by the Architectural Control Committee, and 1 was denied. So far, Miller said 71 of 72 projects have been approved for a 98.6% approval rate. Bush asked if every outdoor project came to Architectural Control. Miller said there was no guarantee of that, but if they don't and Woodmoor Public Safety, WPS, or another resident notices it, it may be reported. Bush complimented WPS for finding a crew that was using unauthorized water and reporting it to Woodmoor Water and Sanitation District. Forestry, Henn said that WIA completed 3 forestry and firewise visits. Spencer has done a great job so far, he said. He noted that the state forestry representative did a final walkthrough for the grant packages. He said he had been in contact with the resident who spoke at the last meeting who seemed happy with the progress. Henn said there is a lot of money left in the 50% matching mitigation grant. Chipping dates for 2026 are June 20th and 21st as well as July 18th and 19th. He noted that Black Forest //mulch, bf/.org, and Urban Firewood, urbanfirewood.com, are also accepting yard debris. Common areas. Caliero reported for Cutler that the sprinkler system at the barn will start in early May, and flowers will be planted, weather permitting. Final restoration of the North Park area is nearly complete, with final grading and reseeding scheduled for May. President Bush, who is also president of the WWSD board, said that even though there will not be additional water restrictions, he encouraged all residents to follow the district's conservation schedule and use water wisely. The WIA Board of Directors usually meets at 7 p.m. on the 4th Wednesday of each month in the barn at 1691 Woodmoor Drive, Monument. The next meeting will be on May 27th. The WIA calendar can be found at www.woodmoor.org/events/. Once approved and posted, the WIA board meeting minutes can be found at www.woodmoor.org/board-of-directors/. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. Letters to our community, upset that proposed train won't stop here. Front Range Railroad Colorado Connector, COCO, plans a new passenger link from Fort Collins to Pueblo. However, there is no plan for a stop in the Tri-Lakes area. We will be required to help pay for the construction. It is being promoted as connecting cities, workers, families, and visitors on the Front Range. No. It is not servicing stops in Palmer Lake or Monument yet. The train will disrupt traffic through Palmer Lake and Monument. It will add sound, light, and air pollution across our communities but provide no service or visits to local stores by passengers. Sounds a little like area concerns about Buc-ee's? Let's rename COCO to Bypass Express, B, with a Tri-Lake slogan of, you know stop, we know pay. B gets no bucks today. Simple as that. Gordon Reichel. Our community news welcomes letters to the editor on topics of general interest to readers in the Tri-Lakes area. Guidelines for letters are found here. The information and opinions expressed in letters to our community are the responsibility of the letter writers and should not be interpreted as the views of OCN even if the letter writer is an OCN volunteer. When there is more than one letter, the letters are arranged in alphabetical order based on the last name of the author. Between the covers at Covered Treasures, Bookstore May is the month for advice. By the staff at Covered Treasures. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined. Henry David Thoreau. May is the month of graduations and new beginnings. It's a push from the safety of the nest, a rite of passage from the carefree kid life to what are you going to do with the rest of your life. It's exciting. It's scary. And, sometimes, a little bit sad. Here are a few books, some new, some old, that offer advice to the graduate and perhaps comfort to mom and dad. 50 Life Lessons for Grads, Surprising Advice from Recent Graduates. Compiled by Janet McHenry, Worthy Inspired, $19.99. Who better than a recent graduate to help a young person navigate their life ahead? With encouragement and advice, 50 young women and men share what they learned the hard way. From Money Isn't Everything to Real Friendships Take Effort, these short but insightful essays address the real struggles, opportunities, and fears that a young person might face starting on their own. The Little Book of Self-Care for the College-Bound. Forward by Kenny Marie Batistin, Flashpoint, $17.95. For many college students, their first year on their own also will be their first experience in truly taking care of themselves. Navigating classes, exams, essays, schedules, and life after high school can be a lot. And sometimes, one's own well-being can get lost in the shuffle. This little guide is a source of tips, tools, and moments of reflection to help college-bound new grads stay grounded as they start the next phase of their lives. Featuring tried-and-true advice from current and former college students, inspirational quotes, and beautiful watercolor illustrations, each page offers a little pick-me-up for the student dealing with stress and uncertainty, along with a reminder that they are never alone. The Four Agreements, A Practical Guide to Personal Freedom, Toltec Wisdom Book. By Don Miguel Ruiz, Tarcher, $26 H/C, $18 P/B. The Four Agreements is a self-help book based on ancient Toltec wisdom that offers a code of conduct to break self-limiting beliefs. The Four Agreements Ruiz offers are: 1. Be impeccable with your word. 2. Don't take anything personally. 3. Don't make assumptions. 4. Always do your best. The author argues that these simple yet powerful principles can help transform your life by changing the agreements you have with yourself and others. Atomic Habits. By James Clear, Penguin Random House, $27. James Clear's best-selling book is instructional in helping the reader reshape the way they think about progress and success, and give them the tools and strategies they need to transform habits, whether for a team looking to win a championship, an organization hoping to redefine an industry, or simply an individual who wishes to quit smoking, lose weight, reduce stress, or achieve another personal goal. The book demonstrates how to make time for new habits, even when life gets crazy, overcome a lack of motivation and willpower, design an environment to make success easier, and get back on track after being sidelined. All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. By Robert Fulghum, Ballantine Books, $19. More than 30 years ago, Robert Fulghum published a simple credo: all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. Having sold more than 7 million copies, Fulghum's book retains the strength of a common piece of wisdom, that the simplest aspects of life bear its most important opportunities. Fulghum engages us with musings on life, death, love, pain, joy, sorrow, and the best chicken fried steak in the continental United States. All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten is brimming with reminders of the significance found in the smallest details. Stuff Every Adult Should Know. By Gary Paulson, Choir Books, $10.99. Do you ever feel like you missed the day in school when they taught you the really important things you need in life? Skills such as how to write a cover letter, how to change a tire, how to make a budget, how to host a dinner party, how to deal with taxes, and more. Featuring handy tips, tricks, and techniques collected from the best-selling Stuff You Should Know series, Stuff Every Adult Should Know is the adulthood 101 your grad may need. Carpe Every DM, the best graduation advice from more than 100 commencement speeches. By Rob Rogg, Clarkson Potter Publishers, $13.99. This is a curated keepsake that distills the wisdom of several powerful graduation speakers, including Barack Obama, Gloria Steinem, and Kermit the Frog, into the best advice for grads of all ages. Jimmy Buffett offers a simple nugget: be Santa Claus when you can. Each quote is accompanied by a short biography of the speaker and gives the year and institution where the commencement speech was delivered. With advice from the likes of Angela Davis, Oprah Winfrey, Spike Lee, and more, readers will be entertained and inspired by the wit and wisdom contained in this book, perfect for graduates, creative thinkers, or anyone seeking inspiration. The Alchemist. By Paulo Coelho, HarperCollins, $26.99 H/C and $17.99 P/B. Combining magic, mysticism, wisdom, and wonder into an inspiring tale of self-discovery, The Alchemist has become a modern classic. It tells the mystical story of Santiago, an Andalusian shepherd boy who yearns to travel in search of a worldly treasure. His quest leads him to riches far different, and far more satisfying, than he ever imagined. Santiago's journey teaches us about the essential wisdom of listening to our hearts, of recognizing opportunity and learning to read the omens strewn along life's path, and, most importantly, to follow our dreams. Oh, the places you'll go. By Dr. Seuss, Random House, $18.99 and $25.99. In this joyous celebration of life, Dr. Seuss addresses graduates of all ages, from kindergarten to medical school, and encourages them to move mountains. The inspiring and timeless message encourages readers to find the success that lies within, no matter what challenges they face. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. Dr. Seuss. Until next month, happy reading. The staff at Covered Treasures can be reached at books@ocn.me. May Library Events, CEO to talk about Pikes Peak Library District budget and planning. By Harriet Halbig. Pikes Peak Library District, PPLD, CEO Tiona Shainitz-Krebs will be at the Palmer Lake Town Hall, 42 Valley Crescent, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday, May 6, to discuss a proposed hybrid library concept, the current PPLD budget, plans for future spending, and to answer questions. Space is limited, and registration is required at ppld.org. Future town halls will be held at the Ute Pass Library and the Calhoun Library. Regularly occurring programs at the Monument Library are Storytime each Tuesday from 10:30 to 11:15 for children 3 to 7 and their parents or caregivers. Socrates Cafe Adult Discussion Group on Tuesdays from 1 to 3. Pause to read on Tuesdays from 4 to 5. Increase fluency by reading to a pause to read therapy dog. Toddler time from 9:30 to 10 and 10:30 to 11 on Wednesdays for toddlers 1 to 2 and their parent or caregiver. On Monday, May 4, from 5 to 6 p.m., the Teen Craft Group for ages 13 to 18 will meet. Bring a craft to work on with other crafters your age. Teen Craft Group meets monthly on the first and third Mondays. The second meeting will be on May 18. No registration required. The Teen Advisory Board will meet from 5 to 6 p.m. on Thursday, May 14. Learn leadership skills, earn volunteer hours, and give your input on what happens at the library. This group is open to teens ages 13 to 18, and registration is required at 719531633 extension 7005. Thursday, May 7, from 11 to noon, take advantage of our device drop-in program. Need help with your laptop, smartphone, tablet, or the library's new online catalog? Stop by anytime between 11 and noon, and our staff can help you. No registration is required. This program will also be offered on Thursday, May 21. Friday, May 15, the third Friday Friends of PPLD Book Group will meet to discuss The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This group is sponsored by the Tri-Lakes Friends of PPLD, and all are welcome. The Teen Dungeons and Dragons group will meet from 3:30 to 5:45 on Saturday, May 16. This group is open to teens ages 13 to 18. Join your fellow teens on an adventure in the world's greatest role-playing game, Dungeons and Dragons. New players and veterans alike are welcome to participate. Space is limited to 8 players, and registration is required at 719531633 extension 7005. Friday, May 29, from 10:30 to noon, the Monument Fiber Arts Group will meet. If you are interested in sewing, knitting, crocheting, or other fiber arts, being in your project and enjoy the company of other crafters. This group is open to adults 18 and older, and no registration is required. On Thursday, June 4, from 4 to 5, tweens and teens ages 9 to 15 are invited to transform a t-shirt into a customized tote bag, with no sewing required. Learn about upcycling and designing your own stylish bag. Registration is required at 5316333 extension 7005. Libraries to close on May 25. All Pikes Peak Library facilities will be closed on Monday, May 25, for Memorial Day. All facilities will open at 11 a.m. on Monday, June 5. Harriet Halbig may be reached at harriethalbig@ocn.me. Palmer Lake Historical Society, April 16, Old West Maps Explored. By Marlene Brown. The Palmer Lake Historical Society, PLHS, held its membership meeting on April 16 at the Palmer Lake Town Hall. The PLHS promotes, preserves, and protects the history of the Palmer Divide area. April's presentation was How the Expeditions of Pike, Long, and the Spanish Put Colorado on the Map by Wesley A. Brown. Brown gave a lively talk about his love of maps of the Old West. Actually, it was the Old West, before there were any maps in areas like Colorado. In 1806, General Wilkinson ordered Zebulon Pike to explore the headwaters of the Arkansas and Red Rivers, enter Spanish territory, and scout around Santa Fe. At the time, no one had mapped the area north of Santa Fe. On Thanksgiving Day, he and his soldiers attempted to climb Pikes Peak and were unsuccessful. Pike said that it could not be climbed, perhaps because of the time of year. Later in early 1807, he was captured by the Spanish and taken to Santa Fe in New Spain. He was released shortly thereafter and escorted to the U.S. boundary at Natchitoches, Louisiana. Little did Pike know at the time that he had fulfilled his mission, and he began to publish maps of his expeditions. www.bostonhonorary-maps.com. Next month, Lee Whitley presents Trails to Interstate Transportation Systems Across the Palmer Divide. The interstate systems were built on Native American trails and wagon trails, because they were the best routes to cross the country. Come May 21st to learn more. PLHS meetings are usually held on the third Thursday of the month at 7 to 8:30 p.m., doors open at 6:30 p.m., at the Palmer Lake Town Hall, 28 Valley Crescent Street, free and open to the public. For full descriptions, dates and times for future programs and information on memberships or making a donation to the PLHS, visit its newly updated website, palmerdividehistory.org. Marlene Brown can be reached at marlenebrown@ocn.me. The Nature of Our Community, Making Sense of 2025 Pine Beetle Survey. By Dr. Judith Vaughn Oliphelt, landscape ecologist. Each summer, the Colorado State Forest Service, CSFS, and the National Forest Service, USDA, cooperatively conduct aerial detection surveys, ADS, to monitor the health of forested lands. Each agency uses these results in its respective forest health reports. In Colorado, ADS collects graphic signatures of healthy and diseased forests that exhibit dead, live, and diseased tree crowns. Using geospatial programs, these data are presented as maps in the annual forest health reports. A layered, zoomable online map, which focuses on forest insects and diseases, currently features the mountain pine beetle ADS results. Fader, trees that are infested, information, from 2024 infestations reported in 2025 flights, is overlaid in red over a 2022-24 forest health base map. The 2025 aerial survey is available now to the public, although the full 2025 Colorado Forest Health Report was not yet online in late April. The graphic below uses a clip from ADS link, https://tinyurl.com/v26n5mpb. This is presented on the online ArcGIS Hub site as a map view of all of Colorado, and you must scroll over to the eastern edge of the mountains and zoom in to find El Paso County and the Palmer Divide jutting to the east into the Great Plains. The red and gold points and polygons indicate where mountain pine beetles' yellow-brownish faders were noted in the July-August 2025 aerial detection surveys. Remember that the faders seen in the summer of 2025 are from trees that faded in 2025, from eggs laid by the previous year's brood during late summer/fall of 2024. Health reports are dated the same year as the faders and aerial survey flights, not the year the mountain pine beetle's eggs were laid in the newly infested trees. The trees, which will fade this spring, summer, and will appear in next year's 2026 CSFS Forest Health Report, published 2027, are still green, wilting, or yellowing now in May 2026. Extended growing seasons in recent years, and a short winter with high early spring temperatures this year, may allow mountain pine beetles to mature earlier than the usual emergence times of mid to late July. Some practitioners have already noted a few emergent adults months ahead of normal. Inspection of this 2022-25 fader mortality map, from west to east, shows isolated small locations of gold, 2024, and red, 2025, faders in the National Forest northwest of Monument and north of the 2013 Black Forest fire burn scar. Edges of the southeastern Black Forest have significant fader mortality, for both 2022-24, gold, and 2025 faders, red. Now there are hundreds of acres of dead trees. This map does not show where currently green trees with pitched tubes and blue-stained wood will show up this summer. It is critical to remove currently infested trees before mid-June all over the Tri-Lakes/Black Forest area to mitigate huge increases of faders next year, green, pitched tubes, and blue stain. Dr. Judith Vaughn Oliphelt can be contacted at judithvaughnoliphelt@ocn.me. High Altitude Nature and Gardens, The Vital Refuge, Water, Soil, and the Path to Wellness. By Janet Sellers. In our current drought-stricken season, our landscapes require more than just a passing shower, they need a protective skin. As we navigate these arid conditions in the Tri-Lakes area, the practice of mulching transcends simple maintenance. It becomes an act of stewardship for both our local ecology and our personal health. The intelligence of the soil. Recent botanical research highlights that plants possess a sophisticated intelligence, utilizing sensory systems to detect magnetic fields and nitrogen levels. These living systems are constantly communicating, but they are under immense stress during a drought. Mulch acts as a vital barrier that slows the evaporation of precious moisture, keeping root systems cooler and reducing plant stress. The late physicist Richard Feynman, whose work I've long admired for its clarity, often reminded us that a tree is not just a thing to be named, but a process to be understood. When we touch a tree, we are touching a living system that has literally built itself out of air and sunlight. By protecting those roots with a deep layer of mulch, we are honoring the biological wonder Feynman marveled at, ensuring the soil remains a hydrated foundation for the solidified light that is a tree. Fire mitigation and local resources. While it might seem counterintuitive to add organic material in a fire-prone area, the type and depth of the material matter. A local firefighter recently shared that he utilizes a deep, 6-8-inch layer of mulch for both garden health and safety. This thick application keeps the soil and underlying plant roots hydrated. Living, hydrated plants are far less likely to ignite than dry, brittle ones. Furthermore, by suppressing weeds and keeping the ground green from the bottom up, we are creating a more fire-resistant refuge. While most people have and should have a wide and clear area of about 5 feet around the home, mulch definitely should not be within 5 feet of the home or any structure. There are vital fire mitigation features to be aware of. Zone 1, 0 to 5 feet. This is the immediate zone from your foundation. Use non-combustible materials only, such as rock or gravel. Avoid wood mulch, shrubs, and ladder fuels that allow fire to climb. Under decks, this is the most dangerous spot for mulch. Clear it out entirely and replace it with gravel to prevent underhouse ignitions from drifting embers. Annual maintenance. Even with rock mulch, you must rake out the duff, blown-in pine needles and leaves, annually. This debris can accumulate and ignite on top of the rocks, bypassing your mitigation efforts. The Black Forest //Mulch, BF/, program is located near Shoup and Herring Roads, with free mulch to residents and a responsible way to dispose of trees. The 2026 schedule for mulch retrieval begins in May, with loader services available on Saturdays for a modest $5 fee. Details are available at https://bf/.org. See a photo of the Mountain View Electric Association's mulch event on page 19. Sunshine as a shield. As you head into the garden, remember that the sun provides more than just energy for your plants. Emerging health perspectives suggest that maintaining optimal vitamin D levels through sensible sunlight exposure is critical for immune regulation. Interestingly, vitamin D is increasingly recognized for its role in mitigating the effects of tick-borne illnesses. As a gene-regulating hormone, it strengthens the immune system, the most critical element in defending against the complications of Lyme disease. Optimal levels help the body manage the inflammation and systemic fatigue often associated with these infections. While you work to protect your soil, ensure you are also protecting yourself. Wear your gardening gear, but don't fear the sun. It is a fundamental partner in your physiological resilience. Together, a well-mulched garden and a well-nourished body create a restorative portal of health right in our own backyards. Janet Sellers is a professional artist, writer, and featured speaker on neuroaesthetics and restorative design. Contact her for speaking engagements or inquiries at janetsellers@ocn.me. Art Matters, Art and Nature Share a Secret Language. By Janet L. Sellers. Bad art makes you say, wow. Huh. Good art makes you say, huh. Wow. Ed Ruscha. How does art offer nature's secret language, which is often written in fractals? Art that mimics these patterns, whether through action painting or organic tools, speaks directly to our stress reduction centers. We connect the patterns in our minds, and that patterning is one part of what is effective in art and nature. Those patterns help us with our health and culture, too. The geometry of restorative peace. In my research into what I call the architecture of awe, I've looked at why certain spaces and images feel like a restorative portal, while others leave us feeling depleted. The secret lies in the fractal, a repeating, self-similar mathematical pattern found in the branching of a pine tree and the veins of a leaf. When we stand before a piece of art that utilizes these organic rhythms, our brains recognize the logic of the natural world. This isn't just an aesthetic preference, it is a biological resonance. Science now tells us that viewing fractal patterns can reduce cortisol levels by as much as 60%. This is the Wow, moment Russia spoke of, the quiet shock of recognition when the mind finds something familiar in the unfamiliar. Reducing cortisol by 60% shifts the body from survival mode into repair. This reset lowers blood pressure, reboots the immune system, and clears the mental fog required for restorative awe. Tools of the stride. To capture this language, I often have to step away from traditional brushes. In my action painting methodology, I employ what I call the two-legged stride, using non-traditional tools like pine branches, brooms, or squeegees. These tools don't just apply pigment, they record a physical movement that mirrors the gravity and activity of the forest floor. When a mark is made with a branch, it carries the voice of that tree into the work. It creates a texture that the human eye can marinate in. This is the difference between a flat, mechanical surface and a restorative one. One is often a dead end for the eye, the other is a path. The scale of healing in art collectibles. Whether a work is an artist trading card, ATC, held in the palm of the hand or a large-scale mural designed for a clinical health environment, the goal remains the same, to foster well-being. By bringing the ethnoecology of the outdoors into our interior, human, spaces, we create a bridge. We are living in an era that craves a return to this secret language. As we build our cultures and our cities, we must ask ourselves if we are speaking in a way that the human heart understands. When we align our creative marks with the patterns of nature, we aren't just making art, we are building a sanctuary. We can get out and enjoy local art and artists with the season's monthly Monument Art Hop. It will be held the third Thursdays from May through September, 5 to 8 p.m. in historic downtown Monument, with gallery openings, live music, artist demonstrations, and special in-store events. See the ad on page 3. Janet L. Sellers is a professional artist and educator developing nature-based architecture of awe prototypes for healthcare. She frequently shares her research through community talks and professional lectures. Contact Janet Sellers at ocn.me. Our Community Notices. By Janet Sellers. Although we strive for accuracy in these listings, dates or times are often changed after publication. Please double-check the time and place of any event you wish to attend by calling the information number for that event. Please notify us if your event listing needs to be updated. Black Forest /drop-off, mulch program. Operation, $10 fee for each load dropped off. May 2nd to September 12th, Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 5 to 7:30 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mulch is available while supplies last. Mulch loader schedule, Saturdays only, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Loader fee is $5 per bucket. Shoup Road and Herring Road, Colorado Springs, Colorado 80908. June 8 deadline for property tax appeals. Colorado law requires the county assessor to hear objections to real property classifications and valuations beginning May 1, 2026. Objections to the valuation or classification of real property must be postmarked, delivered, or presented in person to the county assessor's office no later than June 8, 2026. For additional information, contact the county assessor's office at 719-520-6600 or email us or web at elpasoco.com. For online filings, please visit https://assessor.elpasoco.com/appeals. El Paso County Property Protection Program. El Paso County has launched a new property protection program to help prevent fraudulent deed transfers and real estate scams. The program alerts property owners whenever a document is filed using their name on any property, so owners can quickly verify whether the filing is legitimate or the result of attempted fraud. Residents may register multiple name variations and household members. At this time, the program can only monitor filings made after you enroll, but officials are exploring options to expand coverage. Property records can also be reviewed in person at the county clerk and recorder's office. To learn more or register, visit the El Paso County Clerk and Recorder's Property Protection Program webpage. For more information on the PPP program, go to this link, https://clerkandrecorder.elpasoco.com/recording/property-protection. Prepare now for wildfires. You need to prepare your property for when wildfire comes close. See Colorado State Forest Service's booklet, The Home Ignition Zone, a guide to preparing your home for wildfire and creating defensible space. https://tinyurl.com/homeignitionzone. It's up to you to reduce the risks on your private property by analyzing where the fuels are. Easy things like getting pine needles out of your gutter will help. The booklet has ideas for homes in prairies, forests, or suburban areas. MFD seeks your help. Monument Fire District residents and businesses can create a secure account at Community Connect which firefighters can access in emergencies to find out about people with special needs, aggressive or anxious pets, gate or garage codes, hazardous materials in use, etc. that will make it easier for them to help. www.communityconnect.io/info/code-monument. Coyote safety. With coyote activity on the rise in our neighborhoods, please stay alert to keep our community, children, and pets safe. Stay vigilant, keep a close eye on small children during outdoor activities. Pets, keep dogs on short leashes and avoid leaving them unattended, especially at dawn and dusk. Secure attractants, keep trash bins sealed and do not leave pet food or water bowls outside. Practice hazing. If you see a coyote, don't run. Stand tall, wave your arms, and make loud noises to scare it away. Let's work together to respect local wildlife while keeping our households secure. School bus safety. Drivers who pass a stopped school bus with its stop arm extended and flashing lights constitute a dangerous and life-threatening violation of traffic laws. In Colorado, you must stop for a school bus with flashing red lights and an extended stop arm, stopping at least 20 feet away, unless you are on the opposite side of a highway divided by a physical, raised, or depressed median, b, on a two-lane road or one where painted lines, but no physical barrier, separate lanes, you must still stop, c, after stopping. You must remain stopped until the bus's lights stop flashing and it begins to move again. Colorado school buses are increasingly being equipped with automated stop arm cameras to record and catch drivers who illegally pass a stopped school bus. Recent legislation allows for the installation and use of these systems by school districts. Academy School District 20 in Colorado uses school bus cameras, including the stop arm camera system and interior cameras, to enhance student safety and to document drivers who pass a stopped school bus with flashing lights and an extended stop arm. DUI expressed consent. Refusing to comply with Colorado's expressed consent law, which requires drivers to provide a breath or blood test upon arrest for a DUI, means increased consequences. In addition to $13,500 in costs, refusal to comply will result in additional penalties, which can include extended time without a driver's license, longer interlock requirements, designation as a persistent drunk driver or increased alcohol education requirements. codot.gov/choose-totest. Tri-Lakes Cares needs your support. Tri-Lakes Cares is the only food pantry and human services organization serving northern El Paso County through emergency relief and self-sufficiency programs. The community-based, volunteer-supported center is a critical resource for our neighbors in need. The best way to help support Tri-Lakes Cares is to donate. Visit https://tri-lakescares.org/donate to learn how to donate money, medical items, personal supplies, or food. Please check the web for current needs in our food pantry at https://tri-lakescares.org/donate/current-needs. Donation drop-off hours are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information about Tri-Lakes Cares or how you can help, contact Tri-Lakes Cares at 719-481-4864 or info@tri-lakescares.org. Get help in Larkspur. Larkspur Church has a food bank and care center that offer a good variety of non-perishable food items, as well as clothing for men, women, and children, some household items available too. We're here to help. If you are in need, or know someone who is, please reach out to Jeff at gethelp@larkspur.church. If you would like to donate, contact Jeff by the same email to arrange a pickup. Forest and gardening volunteers needed. Friends of Fox Run Park has openings for student volunteers, and grown-ups, too, most of the year for various tasks. Besides tasks, the group offers information and skills demonstrations for each 2 to 3 hour session, and celebrates volunteers at the park with annual community events. The Tri-Lakes Cares on-site garden in Monument also needs volunteers in fall, spring, and summer. Gardening tasks include preparing garden beds, weeding, sowing seeds, and developing the compost. Bring gardening gloves, some tools will be provided on the workdays. Contact Janet Sellers at janetsellers@ocn.me or Marlene Brown at marlenebrown@ocn.me for more information. Neighborhood safety. What qualifies as suspicious activity? If you see something, say something. It's vital to report to local law enforcement. Suspicious activity can refer to any incident, event, individual or activity that seems unusual or out of place. Some common examples of suspicious activities include a stranger loitering in your neighborhood or a vehicle cruising the streets repeatedly. Someone peering into cars or windows. Here's what local authorities and Colorado Department of Public Safety says is needed information. Who did you see? What did you see? When did you see it? Where did you see it? Why it is suspicious. Call 911 or your local law enforcement agency. State and county volunteer opportunities. The Colorado State University Extension Office in El Paso County has several opportunities for individuals interested in volunteering. https://elpaso.extension.coloradostate.edu/volunteer-opportunities. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office Volunteer Program is composed of a collective citizens group with a true and common desire to partner with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office by volunteering their services while learning more about the internal workings of the law enforcement community. https://www.epcsheriffsoffice.com/volunteer-program/. The El Paso County Volunteer Program is a wonderful opportunity for citizens to learn about the various functions of county government as well as give back to the community. The county's numerous boards and commissions need your experience, talents, and time. https://bocc.elpasoco.com/volunteer/. Thank you for joining us for the audio versions of the articles and columns from this issue of OCN. To dive into the full articles and columns or explore more content, visit ocn.me. Don't miss out, sign up for our community newsletter to stay updated with every new post.